Listen to the sound of footsteps in the dark, to voices that may not be quite human, to the sound of screams in the night. The Haunted Cabaret, the home of all things horror, on Rhode-IslandFreeRadio.org, with your host, George Garner. The Haunted Cabaret starts now. All right, that was Black Sabbath, Children of the Grave. A perfect way to kick off this episode of the Haunted Cabaret here on Rhode Island Free Radio. I'm your host, as always, George Garner. To my right, Chuckles the Evil Clown.
Good evening.
And at the control board, as always, Tony Jones.
I almost forgot to grab my microphone.
But I bet you probably didn't forget to grab a bunch of those free comics Saturday, did you?
Very, very generous situations in some places, and of course, I know I've lamented it on Chuckles Crypt, but my regular comic shop and the comic shop closest to my house, he does not participate in Free Comic Day. It makes no sense. A fledgling business
that does not participate in one of the...
Does not and will not participate. Makes no sense.
Does he have even an excuse for that before he goes out of business?
He's fledgling. He's fledgling for sure. There's days when I'm the only person in sight in that store.
Okay, it could be a situation where he's fledgling, but he's also, let's just use the polite term, ignorant. He doesn't understand that to succeed in a close-knit community,
right?
You're supposed to, I should say, associate with other like-minded people from the word go and do everything you can to let your fellow nerds, dorks, geeks, cellar dwellers,
sweatpants wearers,
sweatpants wearing, pajama going out ins, barefoot in wintertime, fellow community. Nerd. Well, I already said nerd. I'm trying to think of a word that just encapsulates all of us. Just
geeks.
Well, I already said geeks.
Did you?
Yeah, I said geeks, dorks.
The most important
nerds.
thing to encapsulate is people with disposable income and getting them into your store to dispose of said income.
People with parents who have disposable income, who will cast the occasional $20 bill down the steps into your basement dwelling.
It's the way to get the kid out of the house.
Exactly. Well, either that or you can just get the the video game box and just toss it out the back door and say fetch, and out goes the kid after it. That would work momentarily. But anyway, the point is, yes. What did he do? Maybe just woke up one day and said, I think I want to be in the comics business, or I want to open a comic book shop. I went to one when I was a kid and it was really nifty neato. And so I want to open one now, but he's forgotten everything about what he used to do as a kid.
And the stores that are doing the best right now are the stores where the people that work there actually have personalities.
Yeah, that's why there's one in where I live now, up in Killingly, Connecticut. There's one in one of the villages of Danielson that's going to go out of business pretty quick.
Let me know, because I want to go down when he's going out of business to pick up his...
Well, the cafe, they tried to divide it in two. There's the comic book side of things, and then was the cafe part. The cafe part is already out of business because you'd go in there basically, and the guy behind the counter would just kind of look at you. And so I struck up a conversation, and I mentioned to him that I do this show and that I'm part of Rhode Island Free Radio, and we got on a good season, 80,000 followers. On a not so good one, 60. Between all our shows, and that didn't impress him. He didn't give me a business card. He didn't invite me back. He didn't invite us to do a show on the premises. He didn't say, where is it? I'll be down there. He didn't say, here, take some free stuff. Which is really the best outcome you could, hope for. He didn't do any of those things. He just kind of, So he's gone. And, so I think the comic book side of it will follow shortly, mostly because I asked the kid in there, I said, I've got some, Warren, the black and whites, creepy, from the 70s, the 80s, some creepies, Eries, Vampirella. And he says, no, we don't do magazines. We rather just do comics, which makes me wonder if now maybe he's just drawing full size graphic magazines, but I don't think he knew that they were comic book format. That makes me nervous. So The same thing as this guy you were just telling me about. See, now we're tying it all together. See, yeah, the same thing that this guy you were just telling me about that's fledgling and ignorant. Kind of, it reminds me of, I was at a NECON, short for New England Writers Convention. And, at all conventions, there's a merch room. And, all the there was some, writers were there. Now, some of them, obviously, like Peter Straub, F. Paul Wilson, who writes and does video games. Stephen King was there once, not this year, and among these, among the writers that other people knew, and you just like at Rock and Shock, you go up there, shake hands, and they sign things, but they don't charge money. That's why the first time I went to Rock and Shock to meet the actors, celebrities, I was kind of like, because I started off going to writers' conventions, where they don't charge money, but they really appreciate it if you buy their books, and they do look so pathetic. Some of them that they don't charge money ostensibly, but
thanks for noticing me.
Yeah, I mean, you really don't want to go in there with like this dog-eared paperback that your mother gave you when you were 5 years old to get you on your reading path. You want to buy something from them. But which brings me to the ignorant counterpart of the guy in this comic book shop. His name was I think his name was Stab. Stab was in his name, like Joe Stab, Philip Stab. Actually, it's probably best if I don't really remember his name because this he does. It's like kicking a kitten. Like he doesn't need any more abuse.
Taking a stab at business.
Yeah, but he wrote this vampire novel, and he to his credit, he got it published by somebody. I forget who, but he shows up now around the room. There's, like I say, the Peter Straub who wrote Ghost Story. There's F. Paul Wilson who wrote The Keep and designed a bunch of video games. Around the room in their own little booths there with their signs and everything. Even they are hawking merchandise. You follow what I'm saying? They're letting you know it's there, and hey, you want some. This guy though, he like Tony said, he's not sociable. He basically sets up in the middle of the room. If you picture the merch room in a convention, it's around the four walls, right? This guy sets up in the middle of the room. I don't know who let him do this, or he didn't ask permission.
He was running that con.
Apparently, he thought he was, but he sets up big table in the middle of the room like this. We're sitting here in the studio at a table. It's what would you say, 4x4?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, he sets up a table about 4x8 in the middle of the room, and piles literally cartons of his book on this table, and pulls up a folding chair and sits there. And when I say it was like, how like you look at a brook or a stream or something, the water's flowing down and there's a big rock right in the middle of it, and the water just like breaks around the rock and goes around it, and the rock is just impervious. Well, that was this kid with his block of books sitting in the middle of the stream, in the middle of the convention merch room.
And even when we do cons, we're not actually selling anything. Usually there's some kind of a trade-off for work where I've gotten the table and, we're just there to enjoy ourselves. But we still work the room, lest there be, people that say, I went by the Rhode Island Free Radio booth and everybody there was miserable.
Right.
We're not even trying to make a dime, and we're still hustling.
Right. We refuse to be miserable. The idea is to be having fun.
Yeah.
But no, the rock in the middle of the stream at this convention, though, this guy, like, the expression on his face was bitterness and vindictiveness, I would say, come closest to it. And obviously, because of the rudeness of the situation, not one convention goer would. I mean, usually, if you're in a situation like that and there's somebody that you don't, they got their music out or their book out or their T-shirts out, if you don't know who they are, you're socializing with everybody else. So sooner or later, you're going to wander over to them. Yeah. And exchange a word and, put out a little attention and see what the story is. The expression on this guy's face, the circle of anti-charisma around this guy, it forbid that. It forbid that. Now, I didn't see one person walk up to his large, burdened table, throughout that whole night of socializing. So I'm thinking that this, maybe somebody should reach out to this fledgling comic book person And like maybe myself, because I'm such a diplomat when it comes to explaining what somebody's doing stupid. You know, I mean, somebody once said to me that I could call somebody an asshole right to their face and not have the mind. maybe I'm the kind of negotiating, diplomat that needs to speak to this person. Oh, Tony, male or female?
Male, but I think his wife also sometimes works at the shop.
Okay, it's a job for you. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not tangling with any wives. I think we got to the root of it though. I think the wife is probably the one that says, you're not giving away anything for free. Right. Those things cost money. You're not giving away anything for free. I don't care if you want to give away the cheap ones. They still cost money.
Especially if the wife's working there part-time, it's simply because it's free labor, because they don't want to hire anybody and have workman's comp insurance and all that stuff that goes along with business.
Right, and she was against it from the beginning.
Yeah.
But he just passively, aggressively put up a fight.
Yeah.
And she finally gave in.
Oh, honey, it'll just be 1 day a week.
Yep.
Help me out.
Yep. Yeah. Once here's what he said. Oh, I can hear it in my nightmares. Here's what he said. Once we start making money, then I'll hire a couple of people.
We'll franchise out the shops and make a ton of money.
No, but I guarantee you that's what he said. He said, once we start making money, I'll hire a couple of people.
20 years later, she's still there on Saturday and Sunday.
And not just Saturday and Sunday. So I think that's the problem there. You know, he doesn't dare give away anything for free when his wife is working there for free 5 days a week.
And he's kind of in a little high-rent district, too, so it must be tough to turn a dime.
Okay, then I'll go on a little more deductive reasoning here. His wife's side of the family is putting up most of the money for this little adventure. So his wife has put up the money, or her parents.
Why couldn't we get that going?
I know. I want to meet these people more and more. Well, I got a recently divorced friend. I'll send him over there. See if he can do anything to get his hands on it. But, so basically we got a person who's married to a wife who finally was talked into this business, who is still there taking care of it 5 days a week after 10 years. Well, no, Tony said fledgling, though. So, she's just taking care of it 5 days a week from the get-go. And she's waiting to see that money roll in, though, because then she can cut down on her hours. That's not happening. So as long as she's working there for free, he's not giving away anything for free either. And I sense the end of this marriage probably 3 years down the road. I don't know if there's anything we can do in this situation other than just like wish him well. Well, when you say high-end neighborhood, where is he?
He's kind of not right in Wickford Village, but kind of on the border. Where
stop right there.
You get a ton of traffic. I mean, it's a great location for any business, really.
Right. Any business that runs competently.
Yeah.
Right. All right. I'm going to have to stop by there. Is it just like your typical, comics, the new comics of every month, or is he actually trying to do something there?
No, it's a mix of both. He also has kind of brands it as a rare bookshop. So there are, new comics, old comics, and then a bunch of different books.
I think I'll abuse him by just going in there with this copy of Archie Meets Kiss that Chuckles just gave me, and I'm going to ask him if I can sell it. How much will you give me for this? Yeah, I don't know. Some people, and something tells me he doesn't have much of an internet presence either.
No, I think that's where he's making the dime. Is he is very active on eBay and things of that nature.
Oh, all right then. All right, so he's got something going.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, he's got something going, but that is the wrong attitude. I mean, you can't not participate in something. No.
He probably has the personality for the internet side of things, and not for
the social personality, right? Yeah, I think that sums it up right there from what I'm hearing. All right, let's go back to the music. We got a great set list here that Tony came up with. I don't want to waste all this music this week. Let's do some Electric Frankenstein, Hammered, here on the Haunted Cabaret on Rhode Island Free Radio.
Company, it's what you want from me, but I'm full of hope that I found myself. Well, I thought this was surely hell, when only time will tell. Heaven, living life thick as a brick. Heaven, slow me down but make it quick. Heaven, look at me before you spit. Heaven, because I just don't give a shit.
All right, that was Electric Frankenstein, Hammered. And, oh, I think I'm in danger of getting hammered on this one can of Pabst Blue Ribbon I'm drinking here. I mean, or poisoned. Or maybe poisoned is... I'll tell you, I'm not a snob. I'm not a, but I just haven't drank Pabst Blue Ribbon since, I'm not quite sure when. But I like to think my stomach is ready for it, though, because of all that Corona, that I, have consumed over the years. If you're immune to, like, Mexican cockroach shit, I think I should be able to handle this, too. The dregs of... What's this? What's Pabst the dregs of?
Well, it's out of Germany now. It's not even an
Really?
American brew.
Really?
It was sold to Germany.
I was always under the understanding this was, like...
It was all American beer,
Yeah,
but
it
not
used to be
anymore.
Milwaukee.
Okay, that's what it was. It was... Okay, yeah. Old Milwaukee beer, now part of Germany.
Yep.
If the takeover comes 100 years after World War II. Well, not quite. Let's see. 45, 50, 60, 68. 73 years late, the German occupation or takeover comes by way of Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. Who would have thunk it?
They're poisoning it.
Well, either that or it's got some of that Zyklon B in it. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, I don't. That's kind of rude, isn't it? Like, still, like, making, like, World War II massacre, Holocaust references to the Germans when, it's like 73 years later. Is that fair? Yeah, it is. Well, no, it really is, because think about it. Like, most of the Nazis, most of the business, Hitler's dead, the Nazis are dead, the soldiers are dead, right? The businesses that supplied those people with all the stuff that they kill people with in the concentration camps and blew people up on the battlefield and poisoned, all those companies still exist.
Or the companies that use the war, like Pabst Blue Ribbon, that use the war as a gimmick to later get customers. Playboy, Pabst Blue Ribbon, they sent all this stuff over there for free. When those guys came back, they had a whole built-in audience for their product.
Yeah, so then I'm thinking of what Bayer Aspirin used to make armaments, or was it the chemicals?
Yeah.
Yeah, and AG Farben, I think that's another German. I forget if they were an industrial company or one of the insurance companies. But yeah, basically, we won World War II, but we pretty much left everything in place over there. So, then when they talk about anti-Semitism on the rise in Europe, it's like, that's not a thing of the past. Of course, I don't know. Where would you go with this? Saddam Hussein was kicked out of Iraq and killed, right? The Americans went in there and they got rid of all Saddam Hussein's military people and army and everything. And then that created a civil war and an insurrection, and we have a war still going on today.
Because they got rid of all the mid-level bureaucrats, kind of the rank-and-file people who had the equivalent of a job there as the DMV, at the DMV.
Right.
All those people were just, see ya.
Right. So whereas in Germany they left those people all there in place, and so we still have Nazi regime there to this day. They just call her Angela Merkel now, and she's not fooling anybody. Blonde hair and blue eyes, I think. I'm not sure, but anyway, so I'm sitting here looking at Archie Meets Kiss, which was a gift from Chuckles. I don't have to pay back the 50 cents either. If that's not an evil clown, I don't know what is.
25% of that went right to Gene Simmons. He gets a quarter.
Gene Simmons I wasn't there, but Gene Simmons probably handed it to him, wearing one of those long coats and a slow chat. It's free comic book day. Yeah.
What you need.
Yeah, this is free for only 50 cents. Yeah. Oh, it looks pretty promising though. Actually, yeah. Can't wait to read that. Although, like Tony said, it's a pretty thin comic book. I mean, there's not many pages there of actual story. I thumbed through it, and it looks like about 19 pages of story, including a couple of splash pages.
A lot of ads these days.
A lot of ads. Although there always was. What happened was, when Marvel and DC Comics were publishing like the 70s and 80s, I mean, there were ads every 2 pages. What spoiled us was when we had all the specialty comics and the, I don't know, you wouldn't say non-commercial, right, because they were for profit. But, the Dark Horse Comics and,
the independents.
The independent comics. Right. And how did they make a living and hang in there with no advertising every other page, right? Or did they have limited? From what I remember reading, there was none, but maybe that's just by comparison. You know what I'm saying? I really didn't notice it.
And the bigger ones, a lot of the advertising is just for their own stuff, like other subscriptions.
Well, understandable. Yeah, I understand that, right? I don't even consider that advertising, though. I mean, I just consider that mentioning things that you might want. Kind of like in the old Warren black and white, creepy, eerie, and Vampirella magazines. The last 16 pages of the comic used to be merchandise. Literally, it was great. But the best part of it was that you actually enjoyed reading these 16 pages of ads at the back of every magazine almost as much as you enjoyed reading the comic. Because, the full-life Frankenstein monsters, the glow-in-the-dark Aurora kits. I'll tell you, looking at one of those 70s issues of Creepy, you look at that stuff in the back there, it makes me, not many things make me nostalgic. I mean, I'm perfectly willing to admit that most of the music from back then sucked as much as it does today. There was, many or as few good movies then as there are today. Yeah. But looking at those 16 pages of like Aurora glow-in-the-dark plastic model kits of Godzilla, King Kong, and, that type of thing, that does cause a certain amount of nostalgia. I have to admit it. And the problem was that my parents back then, when I was a kid, they didn't trust, advertisements in comic books or pretty much mail order anything. They'll rip you off. It's a rip off. It's a scam. It's a rip off. So, I never got to order any of that stuff and find out for sure. So I think that might be one of the things that made me as twisted as I am today, not being able to order from the back pages of Warren Comics.
I'm pretty sure I'm still waiting for a set of sea monkeys to show up, so your parents might have been on the right track.
Now, even as a kid, the sea monkeys, I was willing to take my parents' word for it. I didn't think that they would look anything like the picture on and it was always the back cover. I won't say always, but it was usually the back cover of the comic, which showed the sea monkeys in their undersea kingdom.
Looking like they were having a blast.
Yep. Arms, legs, and big smiles. I found out, Tony, did you ever find out later that what those things really were was brine shrimp?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, what you would be sent if you were foolish enough to answer that ad would be a little packet containing eggs of brine shrimp, which when they hatched would be little microscopic shrimp, swimming around in your fish bowl, and that was your sea monkeys. So that's anyone that ever wondered. Yes, that's what you would get would be brine shrimp, to swim around. And that reminds me of about the same age as when I was thinking about ordering things from the back of the comics. One of my friend's parents, he took us to the Rocky Hill State Fair, which was back then, it was Rhode Island State Fair. Now Rhode Island doesn't have a state fair because it doesn't deserve one.
County,
well, it's Washington County, but that's not the Rhode Island State Fair. That's the Washington County Fair, damn it. And you better not forget it. Don't call them a Rhode Island State Fair.
They have their own fairgrounds.
Exactly.
They're not screwing around.
No, they are not. But back when Rhode Island had a state fair, you went on the Midway. And now, the friend whose parents brought us, all credit to him. I forget what happened. I think one member of my family was sick or in the hospital or something. So they took me and my sister off my parents' hands for a couple of days, and took us to the fair. And I wasn't the brightest bulb or the sharpest knife in the box, but when we were walking along that midway, and you saw the giant poster saying "Killer Kangaroo," and the kangaroo had boxing gloves on, and it was beaten up like a full-size man in boxing trunks. Somehow I didn't think that that's what I would find out if I paid my $2 and went through that curtain. But I got to see it though, because my friend wasn't as bright, and his father was just as much of a ball buster, so my friend looks at the picture, and his father's already reaching in his pocket for the $2. He said, "Yeah, here, guys, go check it out." So I look at him like, "You kidding? You serious?" And his son naturally looks at him like, "Oh yeah, bacon," all excited, like he was about to see one of the miracles of the universe. So we go through that curtain, we walk up to the enclosure, we look in, and there's a 3-foot wallaby, like on all fours, like rooting through the sawdust. Eating its apples or whatever it was doing. That was the 6-foot killer kangaroo. These two little wallabies. But it was all worth it though, because then when we walked back out, like my friend's father had his camera ready to snap the picture on his dumb son's face, like when he walked out of there, like completely, like somebody hit him on the head with the board. He just learned that the world was not the way it was presented in carnival signs. Yep, it's a bitter pill to swallow.
The worst example of that is they have a big shark tank, which obviously is an aquarium, so it's clear. So you can see the shark just by being there. If you can pay $2, you can get a couple feet closer. Like, why would you not have that enclosed in if you're trying to earn $2?
Yeah,
I could see the shark right from here. You're not letting me get any closer for the $2. Just I get to walk behind the velvet rope. Like,
well, some people just don't think. Kind of like that club we played in. Where was it? In Connecticut. In Tony, remember the dummy? Charged $10.
Oh yeah,
admission, and the only problem was that the front of the place was a plate glass window,
and the sound system was loud.
And we played really loud, and so it never crossed his mind that everybody that wanted to hear the show, all they had to do was like light them up and just sit outside and watch through the window.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't even draw the curtains on the window if I remember correctly. So everybody was sitting outside, watching the show through the window, listening, and visuals were perfect. Then what was it like? Maybe like 2/3 of the way through, the poor guy finally went out there and said, "What? Everybody can go in." Like, what was it like? He reduced the price to like
$10 for the grill. Like it's like going to the drive-in.
Yeah, $10 for everybody. And some people, then you wonder why businesses fail. It's a lot of times it isn't too difficult to figure out. All right, let's go back to the music. Let's I know it's only spring, but let's get a taste of Halloween here. Let's do some Evil Streaks. Pumpkin Carving Party here on the Haunted Cabaret on Rhode Island Free Radio.
Like
All right. That was the Evil Streaks Pumpkin Carving Party. Tony, how is that? Now I wouldn't say it's a local band. It is a regional band. How are they doing these days? Are they still out and about?
Yeah, they just played. They do a big tribute to Lux Interior from the Cramps, who passed away many years ago, and they just went out on that tour to kind of celebrate the memory of Lux Interior. So yeah, they're still staying pretty busy regionally.
Yeah, good. I'm glad somebody is. I mean, now too late, or rather too often. Too late, too often. I got to it eventually. Yeah, you play a song by somebody, they're not around anymore. Yeah, there's a very high mortality rate, I guess you would say, among original bands, original performers.
It's usually right after they put out a killer release, too. We get an awesome release here. I can't wait to get it in rotation, play it on my show, play it on your show, and then next thing you know, womp, 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 they're gone.
Yep, and we're lamenting.
Yep.
Yeah, the other thing that dooms most bands is they win a rock hunt or some kind of rock competition or music competition, right? I mean, we survived that. Actually, I think we're one of the sole survivors that lasted several years after
that reminds
we won any kind of competition.
The Motif Music Awards are tomorrow night, and I didn't even bother mentioning that we were up for an award because we're not going to win. Well, why hustle for votes?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Motif Music Awards are rigged. Yep, everything's rigged except what Donald Trump says is rigged. That's not rigged. Everything else is apparently rigged. I'll tell you, boy, if he gets the Nobel Peace Prize, right? You hear there's actual talk about that?
Well,
yeah. I mean, you can't really. If anything comes out of this North-South Korea thing at all positive, I mean, the guy's entitled to it. I mean, especially when you look at some of the idiots that got it in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, at least this time somebody's actually making peace. I mean, they gave that thing. Let's see. Did they give that to Yasser Arafat once?
They gave it to Obama while he was sending drones to go over to Pakistan and
blow people up,
shoot up weddings.
No, you know what? I don't think they gave it to Obama while he was sending the drones. I think they gave it to Obama as soon as he was elected president. I think he was the only guy in history to win the Nobel Peace Prize just for being black.
Which makes the sense, because if you already got it, you've already got the prize. Now you can just go blow stuff up.
Yeah, and he did. He spent the rest of his 8-year presidency murdering people, some guilty, some innocent, here, there, and everywhere. And then, and as a matter of fact, then I read somewhere that what would you say? The biggest sales of arms, from American military companies to the rest of the world occurred during his presidency. So he not only, basically wore out the drones, but I think it was like $500 billion worth of, from a reputable news source, $500 billion worth of munitions and weapons of destruction that, the Obama administration facilitated going to the rest of the world. Obviously a man of peace, a true saint.
Did you hear? It's almost like something out of a sci-fi movie. Did you hear that the folks running the drones in
Nevada, I think
the Nevada desert, don't know if it's an actual strike or if it's a simulation, so they don't know if they've killed someone that day or if they're just training. Isn't that like something out of sci-fi?
Actually, that is almost exactly out of science fiction. I remember a novel called Ender's Game. It was by this writer named Orson Scott Card. And Ender's Game was about, the Earth was at war with an alien civilization, and we were losing. And so what they did is they found basically somebody who was the ultimate video game player. And they hired him to work for, the military. And what the military told him is that they were running, how do they put it? They were running facsimiles of battle plans, and he was going to fight the battle plans, because of his quick reflexes and incredible insight. In other words, he was going to vet the battle plans. And if they worked, if he won, then they were going to use them in real life out, against the enemy civilization. And so that's what he did for several years. They started out with small engagements, and they went out to, the final, the Armada type, battle to end it all. And Yeah, at the end of the battle to end it all, he won. His guidance of the battle system won, and only then did he find out that he'd been fighting for real.
Wow.
Yeah, one of my favorite science fiction books ever. Like that. You know what I'm saying? And that punchline was real. That was like you didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a great punchline. Yeah, and then what happened naturally is he was never the same again mentally because win or lose, no matter whether he was fighting for Earth or not. I mean, he was responsible for the annihilation and genocide of a whole civilization. By the time the war was over. But yeah, great book. So yeah, that does sound remarkably like that science. Let's see. Orson Scott Card wrote Ender's Game and a bunch of sequels that made him a lot of money, which kind of sucked though. The ones I read, but I think he wrote that back in I want to say the 80s, early 80s, maybe. So yeah, Orson Scott Card beat the drone launches, the fictional drone launches, the Punch by 80, 90, 30 years.
He predicted the future.
Yeah, saw it coming. Makes you wonder what else I don't know. I had a dream recently about some kind of nuclear accident and I was dying of radiation poisoning. Hopefully that's not predicting the future.
Damn.
Yeah. All right, Tony, let's go back to the music here because like I said, this is a great set list you conjured up. I'm going to get through most of it. Now let's go do some old school. Let's do some Iron Maiden Revelations here on the Haunted Cabaret, Rhode Island Free Radio.
Say the man
All right, that was Iron Maiden, but that wasn't Revelations. That was, I believe the name of that one was Flight of Icarus. But, back, when, let's say, illegal file sharing, to put it politely, first became prevalent, some of the record companies, decided that they were going to annoy and aggravate, basically, and because it wasn't going to really solve anything, but they were going to annoy and aggravate the pirates by scrambling the data, so that, let's say, for example, somebody wanted to rip, Revelations, they'd scramble the data, and then what you were ripping would be Flight of Icarus. So that's why that happens once in a while here at Rhode Island Free Radio.
They did that on cassettes too, right? Where the cassette, the writing on the cassette would be different than the actual order of the songs. I remember getting a few like that.
You're right. They did do that on cassette. I always thought it was just like stoned idiots, printing out the cassette labels. But
that's much harder if you actually want to listen to a song. I mean, on a cassette.
Yeah, that's much more aggravating too. So I can imagine cassette listen is basically burning those people in effigy that tried to do that. And on this one here with the Iron Maiden tracks, I don't know. I have a hard time believing that Iron Maiden was in the know on that or approved of it, because Iron Maiden's approach to file sharing or song piracy or whatever you want to call it was a little more constructive than that. What Iron Maiden did when they found out that a lot of their music was being illegally downloaded was they asked somebody, hey, do us a favor, find out what cities are most of the majority of the downloads taking place. In other words, where is what cities are is most prevalent when it comes to stealing our music. And so they had somebody look into it, and it came to like 10 or 15 cities. Okay, this is where the most Iron Maiden music is being stolen. They said, good, book our next tour in those cities. Yep. And it worked 100%. They sold out every single one of those shows.
You hit the record shops in that city and get your T-shirts on the racks.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, so talk about constructive approaches to the changing technological environment.
And then you have Metallica.
Yeah, and Kiss. I hate to admit it. Yeah, but Metallica was the worst. They were the ones that were actually in the courtroom. Yeah. Buddy with those big music producers against Napster and the individual downloaders. So yes, and I like to think that nothing went that good for Metallica ever again. I mean, I think their high point since then was playing on the. I think the high point since then was playing at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Awards, which if that's the high point of your life from then, you didn't do too good.
Well, that TV show they had where they were at couples counseling.
Yeah, they did that too. I mean, I don't know. Did they kiss and make up or suck and make up at the end of that those sessions? I don't know. Yeah, true story. Yeah, Metallica went to counseling. Yeah, at least Kiss did the honorable thing and they fought for 40 years and sued each other. I mean, Ramones. Yeah, I mean, you do the right thing. You hate. Fits. Yeah, you hate each other.
Dead Kennedys.
Hate
what goes on.
Hatred. Yes. Yep. As H.P. Lovecraft once said, "It's more important knowing what to hate than what to love." And that's what we want. Is we want bands that live up to that. Yeah. We don't want people that work it out. Well, unless it's like, let's say, the Rolling Stones. You know what I'm saying? They hate each other for 9 years. Then it's like they're so old that they forgot what they were fighting about.
Well, they all put out solo albums that absolutely sucked. So they realized, I better make buddies with these guys again.
Yeah, every single one. Yeah, that's what happened to Aerosmith too, if I'm not mistaken. Joe Perry went off solo. Yeah, I think he had one good song on like 2 or 3 solo albums.
He's actually a pretty decent blues artist.
Yeah, I saw him.
He is.
He's very good at what he does. It's another one that I thought was pretty good. I know I'm going to get shot for this, but Steven Tyler's country album was actually very decent.
I haven't heard it. Well, I know that Steven Tyler, he's not just somebody that said, "Hey, you know what? My sales are down on something else, so let me try country." Because I know he's good friends with Willie Nelson. I went to see Willie Nelson and John Fogerty one time, and Steve Tyler was a guest during Willie Nelson's set. So yes, they're both old and they both smoke, but yeah, he does have a genuine interest in country music. So I think that's why.
Did they have a drug test to get into that show, where you had to fail the drug test in order to be allowed in the door?
Judging from the both participants and audience, I would say that. I mean, I don't think they bothered with a drug test. I think they just looked and they just said, you know what? Yeah, the war on drugs in this case is just about over. The drugs won. So yeah. But yeah, I can't. But as far as people leaving bands or breaking up bands and then everything sucks and then they get back together, yeah, Aerosmith was a case in that. And you knew that Joe Perry was in trouble. I went to see him down at the old Lupo's Heartbreak Hotel, and he kicked off his set with "Train Kept a Rollin'."
Yep.
Not one of his solo album. Were you at that show?
I was not at that show. I did not have the money for it.
But heard about it.
I heard it was a pretty good show.
Yeah, but it was a pretty good show because he played Aerosmith stuff. Like not a lot of Aerosmith songs, but he played Aerosmith songs at important points of the show. Like, for example, Kicking It Off. Yeah. Aerosmith, Train Kept a Rollin', then a couple of shitty of his own originals for the solo project. Another Aerosmith. Whenever it started to lag, that's what you do. You play a song that people are happy with.
Right. And just the fact that they recognize that that's what people paying tickets to get in want to hear goes a long way with me.
Yeah, that they acknowledge that.
Yeah,
it's like when Slash broke up from Guns N' Roses, when they had he had all his separate tours and separate things. He still pulled out the Guns N' Roses songs.
Even Buckethead's out there playing Guns N' Roses songs. Come on.
Well, Slash, I think he had no choice because I don't think he ever wrote anything aside from Guns N' Roses music, right? Did he have any solo albums with like whole sets of new songs that he wrote afterwards?
I'm not sure. I know he survived a lot better than his counterpartner Axl did.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, you know why? Because he had the rights. He didn't have the rights to all the Guns N' Roses music, but what he did have the rights to was Appetite for Destruction. In other words, he had the rights to the music on that album.
Wow.
So basically, I know when I went to see him up in New Hampshire, that's what he played. He played, so he played the Appetite for Destruction album and maybe a couple of blues jams. And I don't know, maybe there's Guns N' Roses fans that disagree, but I mean, once you get by Appetite for Destruction, on all those other Guns N' Roses, well, not all the other ones, there are not that many, but weren't those other Guns N' Roses albums not as good?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, so I mean, so if you play all the Appetite for Destruction songs in a different order so it looks like you're being creative, then I think you basically, you're playing Guns N' Roses. So it's Slash and Guns N' Roses and Axl with AC/DC now, right?
Yeah. He's
Axl Rose featuring the remains of AC/DC.
Yeah, and Guns N' Roses does tour, but it's way too expensive for my taste.
Right, but who is Guns N'?
It's Axl and Slash. They do come around. They have been around a couple times.
Okay.
But the concert prices are out of my price range.
And I've actually heard through the grapevine that the shows are not that great.
I wouldn't doubt it.
When there's that, hatred is one thing, but when there's that level of bitterness and animosity.
Yeah, those guys used to get into fist fights.
Well, maybe that's why the shows these days aren't too great, because there's collars and harnesses and those invisible wires that when you're doing animatronics in a movie or suitmation in a movie, you got those invisible wires holding them apart.
Well, they got the dog invisible fence where if they get too close to the other guy, they get zapped a little.
Yeah. Now Axl Slash. Now keep in mind that we are the record management people from years ago. We have not forgotten you. And those piano wires that we have twisted around your necks will get tighter and tighter the closer you get to each other. Yeah. So anyway, like I say, to console you a bit, I haven't heard anything good about those shows. Actually, I haven't heard anything good about Axl Rose with AC/DC. Well, it's not AC/DC. It's Axl Rose, Angus Young, and a pickup band, right? At this point. Yeah. So we have one. Yeah, we have one from Guns N' Roses, one from AC/DC. See, it's at that point where
AC/DC should just, as much as I like them, they should definitely hang up the guitar.
Well, it's not a they, it's a he.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's telling Angus Young to quit playing. Just go out there why not just do what which I give them credit for doing. The hippies, Led Zeppelin,
Yeah.
Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, right? They got back together. They didn't go out as Led Zeppelin,
Yeah.
right? They just went out as Plant and Page.
And at least there, unlike Quiet Riot, are at least some original members involved.
Yeah, or Fogerty, who goes out and he's not Creedence.
Right, he's John
CCR,
Fogerty.
He's John
Right.
Fogerty does his own thing now.
Yeah.
And does CCR songs.
Right. But so Angus, it should just be. I can see the promotion now. Angus and Axl.
Yeah.
Why not? That would. Yeah, I mean, would they fill an arena by them with no? But what you do is you just do like a mayhem a fest type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, Axl and Angus hosting, and then you fill up the rest of the bill.
Yeah.
That'd work, especially if you fill it with the Scottish, Irish, and appropriate bands. You know, all the way down to like the the Dropkick Murphys and Flogging Molly down at and then. Well, I would say the only thing like an Irish band would include that scumbag U2.
Yeah, let's not put them on any band.
No, they should no. If there's an airplane waiting to crash somewhere, wait till they're on it.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
I think the best gimmick I saw, which was it was billed as the Misfits, but it was one guy from the Misfits. It was Marky Ramone, and it was Dez from Black Flag. So they did a set of Misfits, a set of Ramones, a set of Black Flag. So no matter who you were there to see,
You heard
there
a
was
whole
something
set.
you liked, yeah.
Right. So they billed it as the Misfits, but it was understood, and they made sure you knew who all three names were.
Exactly.
All right, then that works for me too. Well, especially since the Misfits had how many lineups, right?
Yeah.
So this is just one more lineup.
Speaking of bands that hate each other.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hopefully hatred fades with time. Probably not, but people start dying before the hatred fades. Let's go back to the music. Let's.
I think, we're just about out of time.
Really?
Yeah.
My goodness. All right. We got 3 songs here queued up, right, Tony? What suits us best for time and purposes here?
Any of them, really.
Pretty much basic same time.
A lot of the same time. Pig Destroyer is a little shorter, is the shortest of them, but other than that, they're all pretty solid tracks that would fill out the rest of the hour.
All right, let's go with. We haven't played Pig Destroyer on here in a while. Let's go with Pig Destroyer to close us out. Okay, a little bit of Mapplethorpe Gray, Pig Destroyer, closing out this episode of the Haunted Cabaret on Rhode Island Free Radio. Nighty night.